Whenever you look at the definition of a leader, it's the person who leads or commands a group, organization, or a country. And to be the best leader, you don't necessarily have to be the strongest or the smartest person. You just have to be the person that people look up to, want to serve under, and want to follow. And so I'm going to be talking about the leaders of Classroom of the Elite because every class has a designated leader. There are some special cases. For example, Class C with Hirata, Harikta, and Kiyotaka. There's a little bit of it's kind of hard to say who's the real leader, okay? Hirata, I guess you could say it used to be him, but he kind of gave up his spot in book 10. He couldn't handle the stress anymore. And he's also, he used to be able to bring everybody together, but now he can't really do that as much, and he's frustrated. He doesn't know what to do, so he's trying to take a step back. And Harikta, she's not the best people person. She's not good at interacting with them, so she asks others sometimes to help, specifically I guess Hirata, Kushida, and Karuzawa. They're better at interacting with others than she is, so I can't really put her as a leader. I'd say Kiyotaka, he's the person that people want to follow and want to, he elevates people, I guess you can say. I guess the biggest example is the creation of the Ayanokouji. I'm sorry, all right, I'm gonna just say his name how I can pronounce it, the Ayanokouji group, right? That's the best example for a leader. So I'm going to use him as Class C's leader. And then Sagayanaki and Katsuraki, there's the whole situation when there was two factions, but then because of the island test, she ended up becoming like the true overall leader. So we're going to be using her as well. And also I'm going to include Nagamo and Manabu in this because we know about them and they're the leaders of their respective classes. So we're going to be talking about that. And we're going to be looking at the best and the worst qualities of the leader, and then I'll give who I think is the best leader and the person that I would follow. We're going to start from the lowest class to the highest. So we're going to start with Ryuuen. His best quality is that he loves to win and he wants to win no matter what, and that he doesn't like to lose. Let's look at the island test. That the plan that he had was to make it appear like Class C, everybody ran out and left, and that they used all their points. However, he was the one to stay on the island, and that he ended up figuring out all of the people who were the designated leaders on the island. And he also had that little pact with Katsuraki to give him class points from Class A because of this. It didn't end up working because we know the main character, Sakyanaki, figured some stuff out. But still, he ended up coming up with that clever strategy. And then there's the whole luring out X situation with Karuzawa, where he ended up getting his wish. He got to figure out who Class D, their mastermind, was. And when Ayanokouji came out, he was like, oh, it's you. And it worked. He got to figure out who it was. But because he was going against the main character, he lost. And then in book 10, there's the scene with Ibuki and Ishizaki when they go to ask Kiyotaka to help them save Ryuuen. The reason why they asked is because Ishizaki said he doesn't like Ryuuen necessarily, but he thinks that Ryuuen gives them the best chance to fight for Class A. And I believe he already said that as well. Ryuuen, he does have influence because even though his methods aren't necessarily the best, which leads me into his worst quality as a leader, the fact that he rules like a dictator and with an iron fist. Dictatorships, it's been proven, are they effective? Yes, but are they the best way to govern something? No, and that's been proven in real life as well. Eventually they fall apart, where Ryuuen, he uses undermined and underhanded techniques in order to get what he wants, whether that be through manipulation, striking fear into people, and using brute force. It's a tactic that can work. However, when you go against somebody that is equally like you or better or stronger, it's not necessarily going to work out, proving what Ayanokouji did to them on the rooftop. For Class C, the leader is Ayanokouji. We're going to be talking about his best quality, which is his intelligence. Let's be real here. If he went all out, he's probably the smartest person in the series. I don't think there's a debate about that unless I missed something. I'm only 10 books in. He also has a great attention to detail. When you look at book 9, the situation at Ichinose, he noticed how everybody was trying to not attack her, but pressuring her a little bit and wasn't giving her space, asking her to tell them what's wrong. And Ayanokouji, he did the opposite. He went to her and he didn't say anything, and he just listened to her instead of asking where she was willing to tell him. His approach was different than everybody else, showing that he pays attention to detail. And then there's the scene with Sudo where he listened to what Chabisura sensei said, talking about how you can buy anything at this school. And so Ayanokouji, he's like, anything? So sell me one of Sudo's points so that he can't pass, because he feels like Sudo was a student worth saving. So he notices loopholes in different situations. There's also his physical strength when he went on the rooftop and he took out Ryuuen and his gang, took out Albert, Ibuki, Ishizaki, and Ryuuen as well, where they're all skilled and capable fighters in their own right, just not enough for him. But his worst quality by far is the fact that he doesn't want to stand out, and that he's a character that wants to be in the background. He wants to be an NPC, which I guess I can get it because of how he was in the White Room. But still, with all that talent, you would think you would want to be great. If he went out, he'd probably be the most popular character in the show. I mean, well, not the show, but like in the series, in the fiction world, because he's pretty popular for like the anime community. But in the show, I believe he was ranked 5th of like the hottest looking guys. But the reason why he was so, well, that's pretty high, but the reason why he wasn't any higher is because nobody knew about his personality. They thought he was just all looks and had a boring and bland personality, where that's not the case. When he showcased some of his true ability, Sato, she started liking him after he raced at the sports festival. Karuzawa, after she saw what he could do with that scene, I believe it was Manabu, and then saving her on the rooftop, she started liking him. Ichinose, book 9, what he did to help her, and what he did in book 10, she started liking him more and more. And Sakura, saving her from her stalker. So they know that there's something special about him, or that he's more than meets the eye that he's been able to showcase. Now, his methods are a little bit harsh. I think he's somebody that, even though he said that he likes to have tools, or he sees everybody as tools, I think he's not on the level of Ryuuen. I think he'll do whatever it takes to seek his own personal goals, whether that if he wants to help Ichinose, if he wants to help Karuzawa, if he wants to assist the class, or whatever he wants to do, he would do it in any means necessary. That's not necessarily a bad thing, just a certain ways it goes about it may not necessarily be the best. But he could step in at any time that he would want to. In certain aspects, I think in book 8 with the whole Nagamo situation, if he wanted to, he probably could have put a stop to it back then, but he did a wait and see approach, and where if he would have taken the steps instead of being an NPC, a lot of situations wouldn't happen the way they've been. For Class B, the leader is Ichinose. Her best quality is her caring personality. She cares for everyone, and she wants unity within the class. She puts others' happiness before herself, where she was even willing to date Nagumo to get points for her class so that nobody would be expelled. She has good regards with her peers, even respected by a lot of others outside of her class, and even upperclassmen respect her as well. And the one thing that we've seen from her class and how much they respect her is that scene where she shoplifted. Granted, I do think it was a little bit like extreme. I was expecting it to be something like she stole $10,000 or something like that. But granted, shoplifting is bad. I don't want to say it's not. But what she did, it probably the worst thing she should have gotten was a reprimand and a slap on the wrist. It wasn't as big as I thought people were making it out to be. But even after she told her class, everybody still respected her and everybody still supported her as the leader of the class. But her worst personality, her worst quality as a leader, it's a double-edged sword. I think it's her current personality, because in order to win, you have to look at it a game of chess. You have to make sacrifices. When you set your pieces up, sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice a rook, a knight, a pawn, but that's to have your queen or have whatever piece take out the one that you want, where you strategically set it up, because she's willing to sacrifice herself. But there are people who aren't as talented as her, because Ichinose is probably a top 5 talent in her class. Well, not class B, but like the whole first years. I think Kiyotaka, Koenji, Sagayanaki, Ryuuen, and her, they're all up there along with Harikta. But if she's willing to sacrifice herself, that's not benefiting the class. It's helping it more than it is. It's hurting them more than it is helping. And something I believe it was by Michael Jordan. He said there's no I in team, but there's an I in win, which is true, right? You need people to elevate you and to assist you to a certain extent, but sometimes you got to take matters in your own hands. And with her not willing to sacrifice people, I think that'll hurt them in the future, specifically if they have something to do where they need points for a test, because of how she used 20 million points from everybody in order to save them from class poll. That could help or hurt them in the future. So I do think that she's a bit too caring, and she needs to harden her heart a little bit. Class A leader is Sakyanaki. We don't necessarily know a lot about her like the other ones, but her best quality is that she's a proven winner. They've still been in Class A all this time, so that means she's doing something right. They haven't ever went negative. They've been like at a either constant or going up a little bit. She also plans ahead and thinks ahead. She got Yamachi expelled because of what he did to her at the camp, or when he knocked her over, right? That was kind of petty of her, but I mean, hey, she did think about it ahead. Now, in terms of just overall intelligence, I think that she is the closest to rivaling or being on par to Kiyotaka, right? I got to see a little bit more from her, but I don't think it's like crazy to say that. She's not physically gifted, but she makes up for it with her intelligence and her schemes and all that. Now, her worst personality as a leader, her worst quality is probably how blunt she is. She treats people a little bit lower than her. I believe her aide, not necessarily an aide, but the person who's always with her, I forget her name, but she doesn't treat her. She treats them, and she gets a lot of dirt on people to make them submit to her and make them work under her, because she'll make their lives a living hell and probably get them suspended or expelled if she doesn't they don't work with her. And nobody's going to challenge her because of how scared she is, well, they are, of her, and the influence that she'll have on them, potentially getting them expelled. Nagamo, he is the leader of class, I believe 2B. His best quality is his influence, as showcased being the president of the council. He does have some perks, right? He interacts with everyone in first, second, and third years. He does have a lot of points at his disposal, as he was willing to give points up for for Ichinose. And his networking is probably his biggest aspect, because if he needs calling a favor, he's like, hey, I need this done, it's going to get done, because of how many people he has under his disposal. Now, his worst aspect has to be his aspect when it comes to competition against Manabu. He loves competing against him, and he's lost every single time, and he still wants to compete against him, but he's willing to do whatever it takes in order to try to win, when he was even willing to give up a lot of points in the future. Well, he used the third year's points in order to try to get rid of Manabu. And the last person we're going to talk about is Manabu. His best quality is his non-selfishness. He gets a lot of respect because, maybe, I don't necessarily know if it's because of him being the former class president or his intelligence, but he gets praised by Tachibana, and he's also respected by his sister Harikta, Suzune, where she wants to be like him. He's her end-all be-all, and she wants to be exactly like him and looks up to her brother. And he gets so much respect that during the sports festival, when Kiyotaka was all like, race me one-on-one, right? I'll show you some of my full speed, my full power. And nobody questioned him when he didn't run. They kept it like, as soon as he just stopped, he was like, you can go now. You did a good job. Nobody questioned his actions. All right. But I mean, well, some people did, but like the people in his class, they didn't question it. And he's selfless because he wants to get rid of Nagamo, not because he despises him as a person, but because he thinks that he'll hurt the school more in the future if Nagamo remains in power. But his worst quality as a leader, I'd say same with Ichinose, the level of his caringness for the people in his class. He gave up points to save Tachibana, which, I mean, I don't think she's like a weak link in the class. I think that class A could use her. but he still was willing to give up the points so close to the end of the semester when he might not even be able to graduate from class A because he might lose in the next special test. And I also, his interaction with his sister is not necessarily the best. He doesn't treat her with respect or the same way that he treats his class, which is kind of messed up. But that's just something I want to add because, you know, if he treats her like that, he might treat other people like that in the future. So who do I think is the best leader? It's probably Kiyotaka, because of how much he's won and how much he's done. Because he's influenced people, created different groups, and changed people's lives for the better. He's gotten class D all the way to class C, and he's not even done yet. But he doesn't do it enough. And on the grander stage, for me to say that I would want to follow him, you don't really know what you're getting with him. He could either be the person that leads you to victory, or the person who doesn't really give a fluff. So who's the person that I would want to follow? Probably Ichinose, because you know what you're getting as a leader, and that she's smart, intelligent, and that she cares about everybody. She's willing to do whatever it takes to assure their victory. So I think she's probably the best leader on the surface, where below the surface is probably Kiyotaka, of course, because he's the main character and we get to see the most with him. But let me know your guys' favorite leader in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you guys never miss out on a new video. Find me on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and TikTok is on the screen in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to unleash your potential.